Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone. Joining us on my co-host once again, Evan Davis. And there's been a lot of news recently in the MLB, including the beginning of spring training camps opening for a lot of teams up in the MLB, along with some other big news, including Boris clients Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman finalizing deals to have a home before camp starts. Unlike last year, when a lot of Bregman or a lot of Boris clients ended up signing way later into spring training. Nick Pivetta signed with the Padres on a weird contract where he's only getting paid $1 million this year, and Alex Bregman turned down a 6-year, $170 million deal from the Detroit Tigers to go to the Red Sox for 40 million AAV. Evan, what do you make of the Bregman contract? I feel like that's the one that's kind of the most going to be talked about just because of how high the AAV is, and he has two options in the
Yeah,
in the next 2 years.
yeah, just like, and then they're saying that Bregman's going to play second base, so it's kind of a weird contract. But like, if I'm Alex Bregman, like, hell yeah, give me 40 million a year, like, and with all due respect to Alex Alex Bregman, like, this isn't a guy that is really worth 40 million a year, especially based off his stats last year. I mean, a 260 batting average, 26 home runs, 75 RBIs, had an OPS just above 750, like 768. Like, that isn't numbers that really sings $40 million a year. And then you're telling me that he's going to be playing a new position. Like, when he came out of college at LSU, he was playing shortstop, but then moved to third base because of Carlos Correa. And like moving from third to second base, you're talking about a huge difference here, just even in terms of how you need to react to the ball. Even just throwing the ball, as crazy as that sounds, you're used to having to gun it from third to first. So I think it's a weird contract. I thought like the Red Sox would move Devers from third base and just make him a DH, considering he's not great defensively at third compared to Alex Bregman. And you already have Tristan Casas over at first. So. I don't know. Definitely think it's a weird contract and just a team that, yes, they needed a right-handed bat and that's what you get. But I don't see the fit.
Yeah, it was one of the weirdest things about the deal where it's like, yeah, we're keeping Devers at third, even though Bregman just won a Gold Glove at third base, and he's one of the best defenders at third in the AL. Yeah, let's just move him to second now. I thought that just didn't really make sense to me, especially when you have uh minor league prospects coming up now that
Hmm.
are obviously a lot that play second base. So it's going to be really weird that you're kind of stunting their growth by,
Hmm.
having Bregman block up that hole at second base now,
Hmm.
when it would have just been easy to put Devers at first base. But I know why they're not doing it because they're trying to get Vladdy for next year. So they don't want to put Devers at third or Devers at first when Vladdy comes around. But I don't know. It's a little. I don't get him going to second base. I
Hmm.
don't know what's the appeal of it when he just won Gold Glove at third. It would just make sense for him to be plugged in at third. I think it's going to change midway through the season. I don't think Bregman's going to stay at second forever. I think once the prospects start coming up and, their natural position is second base, they're going to move Bregman back to third and put Devers at DH mainly or put
Hmm.
him at first.
Yeah, and they're talking about like Cedane Rafaela playing in the outfield because like Masataka Yoshida has kind of now just turned into the everyday DH. But then you're also talking about Roman Anthony, who's the number one prospect in baseball as well for the Red and number one prospect in baseball, and then with the Red Sox as well. Like just really, really weird stuff that's going on. Like Devers statistically is not great defensively at third, so I don't get why you would sign Alex Bregman to $40 million a year. And when you look at outs above expected, like Rafael Devers is literally in the bottom like 5 to 8 percentile every single year. And that's not where you want to be. And if you're already going to pay Bregman all this money, doesn't it make sense just to put him at his natural position?
Yeah, I don't know. With Christian Campbell coming up, and he's going to be coming up this year, and
Hmm.
he plays second base, it just makes the most sense for him to, be in his natural position, but they're going to find somewhere to put him, I guess.
And
Another
you
thing
also
is,
lose their second highest draft pick too
yeah,
with the Red Sox.
yeah, and that's just one of the things where it's like, I don't know what the thought process of, yeah, let's put Bregman at second. That's just the most confusing thing of the contract.
Hmm.
Uh, Either put Costas at DH or put Devers at DH or
Hmm.
move one of them to or either keep Costas at first or put Devers at first. That's
Yeah.
that seems like the simplest solution. And then that way when Christian Campbell and Roman Anthony come up, it's more of a seamless transition. But I'm not the manager there.
Yeah.
I'm not Alex Cora.
And Christian Campbell, like he grades out really well for hitting, power, running, as well as fielding. Like overall, I mean, he's the number seven prospect in baseball for a reason. You would think by maybe post All-Star break, he's up in the major leagues. Like didn't like hit the ball pretty solid, even in 19 AAA games as a 22-year-old. Like Campbell and Roman Anthony, I could totally see being on the Red Sox by the All-Star break. They just got to figure out what they're gonna do.
Yeah, that's the biggest question about them.
And
I think that
Marcelo Meyer, they're loaded.
yeah, they're gonna figure out that this isn't gonna really work that quick. Uh, they're gonna switch some things around. Obviously, the yearly Trevor Story injury is gonna take place
Hmm.
soon, and then they'll have a opening at shortstop. They'll call it Marcelo Meyer, or they might just have Christian Campbell play shortstop.
Hmm.
I don't know what their plan is for that, but that's what they're going to end up doing.
Hmm.
The next thing we could talk about is Pete Alonso re-signed with the Mets. He turned down a 3-year deal, 3 year 71 from the Jays, and he signed a 2-year $54 million deal, $10 million signing bonus. So it's uh what 24 this year, 20 next year, I think,
Something like that.
with the $10 million signing bonus taking place this year. But yeah, Pete Alonso turns down the Blue Jays and goes back to the Mets. Kind of something we expected from the beginning of this offseason, where I always thought Alonso was going to go back. But then the rumors started coming up. Well, the G's talking to the Jays, and apparently the Jays are at the 10-yard line,
Yeah.
says all these New York Mets reporters. And then suddenly, yeah, no, he's back with the Mets.
Hmm. It's just like for Pete Alonso, what a horrid offseason this was. Like it felt like he was just waiting for the big contract. And I think, when you look at his numbers, like last year, just it wasn't his year last year. He wasn't that great compared to what we've seen in the past. And this is a guy, but again, like he can hit 30 home runs. He could drive in 100 guys. He hit 34 home runs last year. But I think what the glaring issue and why he didn't get a big contract is that he only batted 240 last season, which just, it's not numbers that scream, hey, let's give you $30 million a year. Like 240 with a 788 OPS, like yeah, you'll take the home runs here and there, but if you can't get on base, you're kind of easy to pitch to at some points. And that was the issue with Pete Alonso. Obviously now he goes back to the Mets, but the New York Mets, like they're worried about the wrong things. Like they're worried about offense. The pitching is what they really need help with. But for Pete Alonso, whatever, you get an opt-out, you could go back into the market next year, have a better year. You'll be 31. You'll probably get a 3 to 4 year deal, maybe a 4 year, $100 million contract, but I just don't see it getting that bigger for Alonso. He did play all 162 games. You can't discredit him for his durability. He's only missed, what is it, like less than 20 games or just about 20 games, but you see since 2023 and 2024, his WAR has taken a significant dip from 2022 when it was at 4.4, and he had a 271 batting average, a near 900 OPS last year, 3.2 WAR this year, 2.6. Like he's just not becoming that impact player that he was in 2021 and 2022, and even in his rookie year in 2019 when he hit 53 home runs.
Yeah, one of the interesting thing about the Mets, and you bring it up with about their rotation being, bad. Jose Quintana is still a free agent, and I
Hmm.
don't know what their real plan. I know they have a lot of lefties already in their rotation. They already have David Peterson. They already have Sean Manaea.
Yeah.
And I don't get the thought of, yeah, we're making Clay Holmes a starter when, like, I don't know, Quintana was really serviceable last year. He was one of their most important players in the playoffs, where that game against the Brewers, he really kept it from getting out of hand, and he kept them in the postseason pretty much.
Hmm.
Like his performance in game three of the wild card round was really the difference maker. And he's
Hmm.
still a free agent. I thought some team would, offer him something. Yeah, he's 36, but he just had a serviceable year. And if players like Max Scherzer are still getting and Justin Verlander are getting, I know obviously it's not more of a like a performance thing. It's more of a, hey, teach our young guys how to pitch more. But Jose Quintana was a really serviceable starting pitcher last year, and I think it's
Hmm.
weird that he still hasn't been signed. I think it would be easy just for him to go back to the Mets, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like that is weird. I completely forgot that Quintana wasn't signed. I think maybe it's just due to the fact that he just turned 36 years old and it's like what does he want versus what is the market telling him? Because Like he's a serviceable guy, but I just, 36 years old, you just don't,
Yeah.
you wonder what he wants. But when you look at now the Mets starting lineup, look, I mean, I don't know what um Francisco Alvarez is smoking up in New York, but to say that this is the best lineup in baseball, I think you have to be kidding yourself here. I mean, it's a solid lineup nonetheless, but what are you going to get out of Brett Beatty? I mean, hell, we've seen so many rookies have a phenomenal first year, but have a really subpar second year. What are you going to get out of Mark Vientos? Like, you just, now that pitchers can study him more extensively, what are you going to get out of him? What are you going to get out of Starling Marte, who had a really underwhelming year last year? Like, on paper, you have a lot of great names. Brandon Nimmo had that plantar fasciitis. How healthy is he going to be coming into the year? Jeff McNeil was banged up a lot last year. Like, on paper, you have a lot of solid names, but when when this team actually comes to hit, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and that's one of the big issues about them where it's like they're top heavy. They're very top heavy lineup right now where you know what you're getting at the top. You're getting Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, Soto, obviously. And then it's that end of the lineup where it's like, okay, we don't, like you said, we don't really know what Brett Beatty's doing. We don't know what even their younger players like Luis Angel Acuna, like,
I think he'll have a breakout though.
but it's still like the playing time is gonna be sporadic for him. It's not gonna
Hmm.
be he doesn't have a unless he balls out in spring training and really finalizes that spot at second base.
Hmm.
There's nothing really thing there because there's still Jeff McNeil.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different, places where everyone can end up. And it's just like, yeah, I don't really know about the lineup, like the the solid lineup that they have.
Hmm.
It's very top heavy right now, but they can still obviously go far with it. I mean, you add Juan Soto, and you were being able to keep Pete Alonso was really huge for them because they were
Hmm.
talking about either moving Brett Beatty or Mark Vientos to first full time. They were
Yeah.
having them taking drills in the offseason.
Hmm.
Uh, but being able to keep that lineup, that thump in the lineup with Pete Alonso is really something big for them. Uh,
Hmm.
and but it always comes down to me with the pitching. Like Frankie Montas is like your third starter, your fourth starter.
Yeah, and I look at this team and I'm like, I still think they are the third best team in their own division. Like, I still think the Phillies and the Braves are better than the Mets when you look at this team overall. And I'm just going to say when fully healthy, because I'm just going to assume that most like Strider's going to come back, Acuna Jr. is going to come back for the Braves. And I think when you look at the teams in the NL East, I still wouldn't put the Mets above the Phillies and the Braves just because of their pitching rotation. And yeah, Pete Alonso's a great ad. We know what he can do defensively. This is a guy that is an all-star almost every year. He's in the home run derby every year for a reason, or at least gets selected for the home run derby every year. This is a guy that mashes, but you're looking at a decline in batting average and OPS, and I think that's why the Mets were kind of like, whoa, slow down. Like, I don't think we want to offer you that 5-year contract anymore. We'll go as high as 3 years and you can have another 2-year deal on the table as well. But, you know, the team is still just, I don't think this team is ready. And obviously, they went on this insane run last year, but unfortunately, it didn't culminate in much. I mean, they kind of got whacked around in the NLCS against the Dodgers, so much to the point that Dave Roberts was like, yeah, I don't mind throwing 2 games in a freaking championship series because I know when my guys are fully ready that we could take you down anytime. And they ended up, in all the Dodger wins, they ended up scoring 10 plus runs. And that was a Mets pitching staff that looked really solid. Obviously you lose Severino, but you bring back Manaea, and I mean, no disrespect to Sean Manaea, his arm was kind of just ballooned into the championship series. Like you could tell that he was losing velo and command of the strike zone. And you bring him back on a 3-year deal. He's not getting any younger. And
Yeah.
you add Pete Alonso, he's not getting any younger, and his WAR and his OPS and his batting average are declining. And yeah, he plays a solid first base, but a 240 batting average, that's not what you want from your three-hole hitter.
Yeah, it's a very, very weird situation that they're in. moving on, we could talk about one of the best things in free agency that happened. The Padres made a move. They signed Nick Pivetta
Oh my
uh,
God, goosebumps, man,
to a three-year
goosebumps.
three-year $55 million deal where he's only making $1 million in salary this year with a $3 million signing bonus with
Four-year
two op
deal,
I thought it was three.
4-year deal.
4-year deal. 55 million with 1 year salary this year, a $3 million signing bonus. And then the next 3 years are all whatever, opt-ins or opt-outs.
Hmm.
Uh, very weird contract that he signed, but he finally signed a deal. And I mean, now the we talk about the Red Sox losing a draft pick by signing Bregman. Well, they just got one back by having the
Hmm.
Padres sign Pavetta.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah, and actually, now that you say that, I completely forgot about that. The Red Sox are probably like, well, screw it. Like, we'll just you lose the 500,000 in international signing money, but they're probably just like, look, Padres just lost their pick. We get that pick now. Who cares if we lose our pick? Like, we still have one. And dude, like if you're the Padres, just what a mess is going on. Like out of all the pitchers to sign, you don't think to re-sign maybe Dylan Cease or Michael King. Like you're just content to walk into this season with them as free agents after this year with no new contract in sight. And it's just like, I don't really get what the Padres are doing. And I guess when you look at Nick Pavetta's numbers, like, yeah, he has a solid strikeout to walk ratio. It was 29-6 strikeout to walk ratio. And you look at over the years, like even 2023, it was 31-8. And you look at 2022, and we're talking about, 23-10 roughly. So, like, maybe the Padres are like, if we can replicate his 2023 season, we have a steal, but look, that was a year ago, and you look at Pavetta's numbers. This is a guy that a career ERA of above 4. Like he has a 4.76
Yeah.
career ERA. The last 3 seasons it was above 4. So even for as good as his strikeout numbers are, like he's still giving up a ton of runs. And you look at his fastball run value, his breaking run value, like it's never been that superb. And I just think to lock a guy up for 4 years, risk a draft pick, like he's a heavy fastball guy, and his fastball velo last year was 94 miles per hour, which it's look again, I'm talking about Nick Pivetta as like as if he's going to be the ace of this team. Obviously, he's coming in as like the fourth starter, but to lock a fourth starter up for that many years, I just don't think is worth it. And if it's player options, if I'm not mistaken, why wouldn't Pavetta just already opt into next year? He's going to make $19 million. I don't see him making the mistake again of like losing out on the qualifying offer of 21.5 million or 20.5 million and then resulting to this.
Yeah. One other thing, like the Padres' entire offseason has been just what not to do. And obviously they've had the issue of the owner dying and, other things going on. But like taking Michael King to arbitration when after the year that he had, not like you said, not locking up Dylan Cease for a long-term deal. There's just so many questions going on with this team now. And
Mhm.
I have to wonder if some teams are thinking like, should we make an offer for Fernando Tatis Jr.? Like, what are we like? What is the? I know he signed for a really long time, and it would cost an entire team's farm. Uh
Mhm.
every single child that they have in that in that thing, every single
Yeah.
international bonus money would be going to the Padres.
Mhm.
Uh, But yeah, it's like some teams are probably thinking we should probably make a call. Like
Yeah.
that's I don't know. That's what my mind is right now. Like the Padres are just like kind of stuck in limbo where obviously they still have a really good roster and I think they could still contend to make a playoff spot. Like their
Mhm.
starting pitching is still really good, but it's
Mhm.
just like what's the future like for them? Like it's kind of bleak right now.
I think it is, and if you're the Diamondbacks, you're kind of loving this because like second place in the division is up for grabs here, and a potential wild card spot. Because when I look at the Padres, something's telling me that look, they're going to be great, but if you can't get an extension done with Michael King or Dylan Cease by the deadline, like you might as well trade them. And I think you got to trade them honestly sooner rather than later because the one thing you can't do is let them walk for nothing. But at the same time, if you trade them for the deadline, then you're taking away a top prospect that you could have gotten had you traded them now. But if you're the Padres, you can't trade them now because you already lost Joe Musgrove. You lost out on Roki Sasaki. You lost out on Blake Snell, Corbin Burns. Like these are guys, Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell. These are guys that went in your division. So I think, I look at the Padres and I'm just like respectfully, how can you not say the Diamondbacks are the second best team in the division right now, just based on the lack of effort by them in free agency? I mean, if you look at them, right now, yeah, on paper, whatever. You have Dylan Cease, Michael King. They had a horrible first half to the year. They were two top 10 pitchers in baseball in the second half of the year. Hugh Darvish isn't getting any younger, but he's still a serviceable number three. Then you have Nick Pivetta and Matt Waldron. Whatever. They can win you a start here and there, but I'm not really counting on them on those fourth and fifth days. Like those are days that the offense is going to have to show up. But you lose Jurickson Profar to the Atlanta Braves on a contract that was pretty fair. Like what, he got 3 years, 42 million? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't anything that was absolutely like knock the door down, whatever. We'll count our losses on that Jurickson Profar contract. And like, dude, your left fielder right now is Brandon Lockridge, like Connor Joe, Jason Hayward. Like you have Tatis and Merrill, but what now? Tyler Wade is your DH? Like, ugh, woof. And then Elias Diaz and Luis Campusano behind the plate for you. I mean, this is a very average team that has a lot of big contracts on it. When you look at guys like Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth has a pretty solid contract as well, just in terms of years. Luis Arias is in arbitration. It was in arbitration, but he's also going to be a free agent. Like last year was their year. They went all in for last year, and then you lose out on a lot of guys that you traded pretty capital for, like Tanner Scott.
Jason Adams, who
Well,
like
he'll be back.
yeah, but I'm saying they trade a lot of capital for
Yeah.
him. Yeah, you talk about the Diamondbacks being one of those sleeper teams now where it's like, they added Corbin Burns, they lose out on Christian Walker, but they signed Josh Naylor, which isn't a
Yeah,
terrible,
trade.
replacement. Um, and they still have some nice guys in the bullpen. You still got Justin Martinez.
Fuck.
You still have some good starting pitching. You still got Zach Gallen. Obviously you have that horrible contract with Jordan Montgomery, but there's still pieces around this team where it's like they won 89 games last year. Like
Hmm.
I could see them going back to winning 92 or something like that. Like it's still possible for them to kind of swap, like you said, swap places with the Padres and be second in the division behind the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I think like when you look at this team, I mean, like they're sneaky. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that even makes it to the NLCS if everyone is healthy. Because you look at Corbin Burns, Zach Allen, Merrill Kelly. And I know Kelly's been, kind of iffy dealing with all these cramps, but forget Merrill Kelly. Moving Brandon Pfaadt into your number three come postseason time. I'm genuinely saying it's hard to find three starting pitchers that are better than those three in a postseason series
Mhm.
because you're talking about three dogs. And again, number three in your rotation's interchangeable, but who cares? It's your number three. You look at the back end of this bullpen, Justin Martinez, like, I don't know if people know a lot about Justin Martinez. This is going to be one of the best relievers in baseball this year. He's a guy that throws 100 miles per hour on a sinker. He has a fastball that reaches 103. Like, you have him, you have AJ Puck, you have Ryan Thompson, you have Joe Mantiply, Seth Martinez. Like, this is a team I think that's going to be really sneaky good. And like, look, I don't really bet on MLB futures, but like if their win total for this season is anywhere between like 85 to 87 games, I would totally bet the over because like as you mentioned, Josh Naylor, really good. Ketel Marte, best second baseman in baseball. Suarez had a really nice year last year. Geraldo Perdomo is really good, but they also have that shortstop in their system. Give me a second here. They have that what's
Jordan
it?
Jordan Lawler.
Jordan Lawler, who could easily come up and start being the everyday shortstop for this team, maybe at the All-Star break or like sometime during this season. I could totally see that happening. And you have one of the solid young cores in the outfield as well. When you look at guys like Alec Thomas and Corbin Carroll, and you have a nice vet in Gurriel Jr., like this is a team that I really think is better than the Padres on paper. And I definitely think they can be second in this division because with the Padres and Pivetta, it's like, why commit that long to him? Like, I don't think it was really a bidding war for Nick Pivetta.
Yeah. I think that that's kind of the thing that's going on where it's like uh I really believe in the Diamondbacks and they still Corbin Carroll had a down year last year. Like
Hmm.
he wasn't as good. Everyone thought it was going to be a linear like trajectory upwards and he kind of went down. Like he had a
Hmm.
down year last year. I think it's going to be possible for him to, get back to where he was in 2023 and have that high batting average. Like he hit 231 last year with the
Hmm.
OPS just under 750.
Yeah.
Like that's not supposed to be the norm for Corbin Carroll.
Hmm.
And I think that he can get back to what he was doing in 2023, which he showed in the entire second half last year that he was hitting like 180 most of the season. Corbin Carroll was
Hmm.
atrocious for like the first half of the season. And then July, August, the second half, he really starts to heat back up again. If
Hmm.
he can keep that momentum going and bring that into this year,
Hmm.
the Diamondbacks are going to, like you said, they're going to be sneaky, and I wouldn't be surprised either if they were to make an
Yeah.
NLCS berth.
Yeah, interesting. Their win total isn't available on Bet365. Get on that. Like, not a lot of teams are, but yeah, like I think like especially now just with the Padres, like their win total right now on Bet365 is 85.5 wins. Like this is a team that was going neck and neck with the Dodgers up until the last week of the season, and their win total has taken a significant decline according to the betting odds. Like, man, I don't know with this whole Pivetta thing, like his numbers aren't that great. He has a nice five-tool pitch mix. So maybe that's what the Padres are like, hey, look, he's got a sweeper, slider, cutter, fastball. Like we have a lot to work with. The problem is like he's 31 years old. Like this isn't just like a project piece anymore. Like we're talking about a guy that should be in his prime and hasn't shown that he can even be really a serviceable pitcher.
Yeah. Just a quick note. I just wanted to say something about the trajectory of Corbin Carroll. Going into the All-Star break last year, he had 5 home runs and had an OPS of 635. After the
Hmm.
All-Star break, he had 17 home runs and an OPS of 920. So if he can
Hmm.
keep that post All-Star break from last year
Hmm.
momentum going, the Diamondbacks are going to be a wagon.
Yeah, and remember he was dealing with the injuries.
Yeah. I I think he's gonna be back to where he was this past after the All-Star break, but I'm hoping. Uh yeah, and I think that'll just about do it for this episode of Breaking News Bears. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis. I once again want to thank you guys, the listeners. That'll just about do it for this episode of Breaking News Bears. Once again, I want to thank you guys, the listeners, and we'll see you all next time.